Chun-Shi opened the door and started yelling at her husband. Li Dong, you are so despicable. You just went to a hotel with another woman, and you've been hiding a secret lover for 7 years. Do you even deserve me? I should never have married you. He turned around and yelled back at her, asking why he didn't deserve her. He wondered if it was because she couldn't forget her first love, Ji Qing, and she regretted marrying him. She was speechless and wanted to ask for a divorce immediately. He pulled her back, pinned her against the wall, and forced a kiss on her. Chun-Shi tried to fight back, pushing him away. Unfortunately, the slippery bathroom floor caused him to fall, hit the back of his head, and pass out, sitting and waiting outside the emergency room. She was shocked and couldn't believe things had turned out this way. She remembered that just earlier, on her way home from work, she received a tip that her husband was checking into a hotel with an unfamiliar woman. She rushed over, intending to catch them in the act, but when she listened outside the door, she heard them moaning. Feeling dejected, she went home and drank to drown her sorrows. Could that be the reason he secretly married her? She remembered how happy they were when they first fell in love. Suddenly, Li Dong came back. As soon as he opened his mouth to ask how she was, she unloaded her anger on him. The evidence was her husband's diary, which she was holding. He said he truly regretted not being able to keep his secret lover of 7 years. So, what have these past 7 years between us been? He said she was drunk and didn't argue, then went into the bathroom, and then what happened now happened. Speaking of the other woman, she's a rising actress named Yu Ling. The reporters were very quick to get the scoop, so now the news is filled with stories about her and Li Dong. Her father strictly forbade her from being involved with Li Dong. Anyone else was fine, just not him. As for Li Dong, he's awake now, but keeps feeling a throbbing pain in his head. Chun-Shi told him that even if he was in pain, he still had to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow to complete the paperwork. He asked what they were going there for, to get married. He's only 19 years old, a first-year college student. How could he be old enough to get married? Chun-Shi was in deep shock. After a while of talking, she understood that he had lost his memory and only remembered things up to the age of 19. She told him he was 29 and had even sold himself to her as an assistant to pay off his mother's debts. His mother was deeply in debt, but still spent extravagantly. He couldn't believe he was even worth selling. She said that since she was in charge of him day and night, it was worth it. Then someone came to report that Madame Lin was coming. Chun-Shi didn't expect his mother's news to travel so fast. She told him that his mother's creditors were looking for them, so he had to go into hiding with her immediately. But as soon as they reached the door, they ran into her. Chun-Shi pushed Li Dong back into the room, closed the door, and went out to meet her mother-in-law. She only cared if her son was okay, not even acknowledging Chun-Shi as her daughter-in-law. It was because of a low-profile actress like her that mother and son had fallen out. Now she blamed Chun-Shi for not taking care of him, for not being a good wife. Chun-Shi fired back sharply. She said it was because she had opposed their marriage that things were like this, and this was just an accident. No one wanted it. She added that she was his wife, not Li Dong's nanny. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were about to come to blows when her assistant arrived to report that the company's shareholders were in a dispute that needed to be resolved urgently, so she left immediately. After that, Chun-Shi took Li Dong home and told him to stay only in the guest room and not to touch anything in other places. No sooner had she finished speaking than he rushed into the kitchen, grabbing knives and cutting boards, and started cooking. Chun-Shi decided to just let it go. Who knew this spoiled young master could cook? They'd been married, and she never knew this. He actually looked quite handsome, and she smiled involuntarily. She couldn't believe that after 7 years of marriage, she'd never seen him in the kitchen. Li Dong offered her a taste. Chun-Shi was surprised. It tasted delicious. If that was the case, she told him that from now on, he had to take on the additional role of her chef. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, Yu Ling had the nerve to come looking for Li Dong, using a whiny voice. Li Dong, oh Li Dong, come out here, I have something to tell you. Chun-Shi slammed her chopsticks down on the table, even breaking the bracelet on her wrist. That's how angry she was. Yu Ling used the excuse of checking on his health, and then brought up the matter of Yu Zheng, her older sister. Li Dong quickly explained that he used to be neighbors with the two sisters, then pulled Yu Ling outside to talk. He asked about Yu Zheng's health, as she had a congenital heart condition. Yu Ling said her sister could be in danger at any time, so she wanted to invite him to visit next week when her father was away on business. He didn't say anything and was about to go back inside when she grabbed him and deliberately leaned into his arms. He just found it annoying. Li Dong went back inside, and Chun-Shi immediately started ranting. She was truly shameless, even coming here. He explained that their relationship wasn't what she thought, but seeing that she wasn't listening, he went outside again. That night, snow began to fall. She felt bad, so she grabbed an umbrella and went out to find him and call him back home. After returning, he had to take a hot shower immediately or he'd catch a cold. But as soon as she stepped out of the bathroom, she saw him sitting on her bed, waiting expectantly. She was startled and immediately kicked him out of her room. He just wanted to make it up to her a little because he believed he had sold himself to her. So why couldn't he? But he was still kicked out of the room. She reminded him as he left to remember to go to the film set with her tomorrow. The next morning, as soon as Chun-Shi stepped out of the car, her assistant ran up to her, complaining, "Why are you so late? Do you know what time it is? This is the first movie where you're the female lead. You need to pay more attention." She was in the middle of talking when she saw Lee Dong. The chubby assistant's mouth fell shut. She couldn't believe that Boss Yin was willing to come all the way here. Even more shocking was that he even listened to Chun-Shi and went to buy coffee. Chun-Shi said he was her new assistant. This was even more shocking. Then the male lead of the movie appeared. As soon as he arrived, he was surrounded by everyone. It was Ji Qing. Chun-Shi rushed over to greet him. "Why did you accept a role in a movie like this?" He smiled and replied, "Because you're the female lead, I really wanted to act with you." Lee Dong overheard their conversation. He didn't understand why he felt so angry. He just wanted to crush the coffee cup in his hand. A little later, in the makeup room, Chun-Shi saw Lee Dong surrounded by girls. Annoyed, she called him over to hold the script for her to read. He retorted, "The script is on the table, and you have hands, so why do you need to call me?" Then he went back to smiling and chatting with the girls. After that, the film's director received news that the supporting male actor had been in an accident and couldn't participate. He had no choice but to replace him. Coincidentally, he saw Lee Dong sitting idly. Knowing he was Chun-Shi's assistant, he felt more confident and gave him the role. Who knew that Lee Dong played the role of the prince very bravely, willing to sacrifice everything, even his own life, to protect the princess. But the unfortunate thing was that this princess, Chun-Shi, had a crush on the prince played by Ji Qing. She even gave him a good luck charm before the prince went off to war. Everyone who saw it praised the pair, saying they were a match made in heaven. Prince Lee Dong, seeing this, became even more annoyed and uncomfortable. He met the princess privately, forced a kiss on her, and warned her that she belonged to him and not to think about the prince anymore. During the break, Ji Qing came to invite Chun-Shi to eat. Lee Dong wanted to stop them, but had no reason, so he had to endure it in frustration. Then the other couple went to a fancy restaurant, like they were on a date, while he had to sit on set and eat a box lunch. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got, so he shamelessly went to interrupt their meal. He grinned mischievously, saying he was there to test her food for poison, so he poked and picked at every dish. He even ate all the cake that Ji Qing had specially prepared for her. After devouring the entire table and returning home with Chun-Shi, he saw that she was hungry, so he cooked noodles for her. But when she told him to test it for poison, he couldn't swallow another bite. See? No more fighting over food, okay? The next morning, bright and early, Boss Lin, Lee Dong's mother, came to the house to find her son. He saw his mother urging him to go to the company. He could only blame her for being so eager for him to make money for her, taking the money from selling her son to spend on designer goods. What kind of mother are you? Boss Lin was both stunned and shocked, not understanding what this crazy kid was babbling about. Lee Dong was angry with his mother, so he stormed out. But thinking about it, he also felt that his amnesia was strange. Surely his mother and Chun-Shi were hiding something from him. Then Boss Lin forced Chun-Shi to explain the situation. She had to confess Lee Dong's condition, his amnesia, and that he only remembered things up to the age of 19. She chose to say that he was now her assistant. Boss Lin wanted to take her son abroad for treatment and urged Chun-Shi to get a divorce. Chun-Shi got angry and said that if it weren't for his accident, they would have already divorced. It was only because the doctor said not to upset him or there would be consequences that she had to put up with this. Mrs. Lin had no choice but to accept it. She could only warn Chun-Shi not to let anything else happen, or she wouldn't let her off the hook. Meanwhile, Lee Dong went off to have coffee with Yuling. She took advantage of the fact that he was having a conflict with Chun-Shi, held his hand, and suggested he make up with her sister, because every time she saw him, she was very afraid of Chun-Shi. Just as she finished speaking, Chun-Shi arrived. She didn't hesitate to pour a cup of milk tea over her head. Adding milk doesn't change the fact she is still a mistress. After that, Chun-Shi pulled Lee Dong out of the cafe. He refused to listen and didn't understand why she did that. It was really too much. She didn't know how to explain. She could only say that now you're my assistant. You have to listen to me. But this reason was too weak. He turned and walked away. She said if he left, he shouldn't come back. And then she ignored him, each going their separate ways. Until evening. Wandering around aimlessly, Chunshi accidentally bumped into a group of rowdy young men with bad intentions. At this moment, she could only send a distress call to Li Dong before they forced her into a small alley. Luckily, Li Dong, the hero, arrived in time to rescue the damsel in distress. Get lost. I can handle all of you by myself. But even the best heroes take a beating. He took a blow to the head with a pipe, but still managed to take down the thugs. He even carried Chunshi home like it was nothing. Back at the house, she immediately bandaged and applied medicine to his wounds. She told him to go to the hospital, but he refused. She kept telling him he was reckless and should have called the police. He said he could handle 20 more of them, and even tried to stand up to prove it to her, but his body was aching all over. She helped him sit down. The two of them looked at each other and slowly moved closer. Just when a major explosion was about to happen, Chunshi stopped herself in time and urged him to go to sleep. The two of them went to their separate rooms, but it was as if they were communicating telepathically. She was afraid he had remembered something, while he was questioning himself, wondering if he could possibly like someone like Chunshi. The next morning, as soon as Chunshi arrived at the film set, the chubby assistant ran up to her, crying, "Why did you offend someone? You've lost the female lead role." Chunshi was bewildered. Who had stolen her job? The assistant told her it was Yuling. Hearing this, Li Dong didn't want to continue filming either, but he was scolded. "Do you think you could just quit? You have to continue participating." Then came the scene where the prince risked his life, but after seeing Princess Yuling run over and even ask for a hug, he couldn't take it anymore. The director ran out and scolded him. Chunshi was also scolded because she didn't know how to control her assistant. She had to sweet-talk him into completing the scene, and they would deal with everything else later. See, when the boss lady speaks, he knows to listen. That night, Chunshi sat down to read the script and remembered asking the chubby assistant. She found out that Yuling had met with Ji Qing and some other connections and gotten the role. Then Li Dong said he wanted to participate in professional acting to earn money to pay her back, but she didn't agree. He got sulky, and now he still hadn't come back. She called a few people to ask for information and found out that he had a separate house that he had hidden from her. Chunshi went to the house to see if he was hiding someone inside. She was suspicious, and he was wondering why she wanted him to pay her back, but didn't want him to earn money. Could it be that she liked him? Saying this, he pinned her to the sofa. Just as things were getting intense, his mother called and said that something big had happened at the company, and he had to be present at the board meeting tomorrow. Then she hung up, leaving her to figure things out. Chunshi was thinking that if he went to the meeting acting like this, everything would be exposed. What should she do? Li Dong immediately asked her what was wrong. Chunshi quickly came up with an unexpected plan. She said there was a company hiring someone to play a domineering, arrogant chairman, and he was perfect for the role. But the problem was that this was a commercial event, not filming. He asked about the pay, and she held up 5 fingers, hesitating and afraid he would think it was too little. Who knew he would be surprised? 50,000 yuan? That much. She said they would split it 20/80ths. He gets 80, she gets 20. He nodded and agreed to the deal immediately. After that, she went to meet his mother to negotiate. After all, if she wanted Li Dong to attend the meeting, there had to be a price. She demanded 50,000, and she agreed immediately. But that wasn't all. There were a few small extras, a high-end van, a 5-star hotel. She was really playing games. The mother-in-law was furious with her daughter-in-law, but had to swallow her pride and bear it to get things done. The next day, she took Li Dong to her room to choose clothes. He was curious why she had so many men's clothes. She said she collected them. She didn't expect that when he put on the suit that he used to be so familiar with, it would make her swoon. Oh, and he needed a tie. She happily went to get one to tie for him. The two of them moved closer to each other again, and things almost got out of hand. She quickly went to get a watch and put it on him. That's it, all dressed up, time to go make some money. Chairman Yin strode confidently into the board meeting. This was a major collaboration for the company in the field of film. Without a hint of doubt from the board, Li Dong stood up and gave his presentation. Following the cues she gave him through a Bluetooth earpiece. But a short while later, he had a terrible headache and, frustrated, ripped the earpiece out. Both his mother and Chunshi were worried, not knowing what to do. But his presentation was still smooth, as if he had swallowed every word. Afterward, he began to wonder why he knew this so well. He immediately confronted Chun-Shi, asking if she was hiding something from him. She could only cover it up by saying that he had watched too many movies and it had gotten into his head. Now that the work was done and the money was received, she just wanted to leave with him as quickly as possible. But he continued to have a headache, felt dizzy, and fainted. When he woke up, he couldn't remember why he was in the hospital. Hearing her say he fainted, he remembered the meeting. So his memory was still the same. She sighed with relief, intending to call the doctor, but he stopped her and wanted to go home with her. While she was completing the discharge paperwork, he waited in the hallway. He suddenly saw Yu Zheng and called her over to ask about her health. He could only apologize for missing their appointment to see the paintings together. Yu Zheng was just confused and didn't remember what Li Dong was talking about. At that moment, Chun-Shi came with the discharge papers. Seeing him talking to Yu Zheng, her heart ached, and she even dropped the papers without realizing it. So this was the secret lover he mentioned in his diary? She was truly beautiful. They were such a perfect match. Yu Zheng came to greet Chun-Shi and bent down to pick up the papers for her, but Li Dong quickly grabbed them. The two sides greeted each other very formally. Every time he spoke to Yu Zheng, her eyes welled up as if she were about to cry. After that, Chun-Shi didn't say another word. Back at the house, he asked her what was wrong. She finally spoke. "Why aren't you with Yu Zheng? You two are really a perfect match." He smiled and replied, "I only see her as a younger sister." Chun-Shi was even more saddened to hear that. She didn't believe what he had just said. He even offered to cook for her, but she refused. How could she eat anything now? She went in her room to think, ignoring him calling outside, saying he would buy whatever she wanted to eat, but she didn't bother to answer. Feeling sad, she looked back at their old memories, which made her even sadder. Then the doorbell rang. It turned out that Ji Qing worked nearby, so he asked around and stopped by to visit her. She could not invite the guest in, but before he had even warmed his seat, he spoke to her. "Fate has brought us back together. Can you give me another chance?" Before she could react, Li Dong returned, carrying a basket of groceries he had just bought to cook dinner for her. Seeing this scene, he got angry and grabbed her hand, wanting to kick Ji Qing out of the house. Ji Qing pulled his hand away and scolded him, saying he was just an assistant, so how dare he interfere in his and Chun-Shi's business. Li Dong retorted, "Do you even know what our relationship is?" He remembered Yu Ling's words earlier, saying that Chun-Shi and Li Dong were in love. If he cooperated with her so that she could have Li Dong, then Chun-Shi would be his. He asked again for Chun-Shi to confirm. "What is the relationship between you and Li Dong?" But she remained silent. Ji Qing got angry and left. Chun-Shi turned and scolded Li Dong, asking if he was crazy to say that. He fired back, "I just went out to buy groceries to cook for you, and you immediately brought another guy home. What else do you have to say?" She had no words. She said, "You're just my assistant. What right do you have to control me?" Saying that, she went back to her room, leaving him fuming. He threw away the basket of food, so everyone went hungry. The next morning, he went to knock on her door, apologizing for being unreasonable and for starving her. But he knocked, and there was no answer. Worried that something had happened to her, he opened the door and rushed in, but she wasn't there. Then he saw the watch cabinet. He was curious and remembered there was a box inside. He opened the cabinet and took out the box, and his head started to ache again. But even more shockingly, he opened it and found a marriage certificate inside. He was about to look at it when Chun-Shi ran in from somewhere and tried to snatch it away, but she couldn't. He asked her why, if they were married, she was spending money to support a guy like him. "You showbiz girls are really messed up, huh?" Then he asked where her husband was, letting her act like this. She said that person no longer had the face to control her. He had someone else in his heart, but still sweet-talked her into marriage. After 7 years of marriage, she was always devoted, while he brought a woman to a hotel, which was a shock. Hearing this, Li Dong changed his tune and cursed her husband as a scoundrel, asking where he was so he could settle the score for her. She said that person had passed away, along with the woman he was having an affair with. Li Dong lit the marriage certificate on fire. She couldn't stop him because it burned too quickly. She remembered the happy moments she and Li Dong had in the past, so it really had turned to ashes. The next day at the film set, Ji Qing took advantage of the break to chat with her. He even remembered to buy her coffee. Li Dong found it extremely irritating. The fake blood from the scene he had acted in was still on his mouth, but he still didn't care. She had also apologized to him. The two of them rehearsed the script together as if nothing had happened. It was really frustrating. Li Dong pulled Chun-Shi aside and confronted her. "Do you like Ji Qing now?" She was going to deny it, but seeing his annoying face, she just admitted it. "Yeah, well, Who wouldn't like someone handsome, talented, and famous like him? He told her she was shallow and childish, then stormed off to find the manager on the film crew. The other day, she had her eye on him and offered him a contract, but he refused. Now he wanted to be more famous than Ji Qing. She promised to help him achieve his goal. After that, she took him to meet Boss Fan. She said she was introducing him to a new deal that was better than anything. When he heard the name Li Dong, Boss Fan was a little bewildered, but he told himself that it was probably just a coincidence. But when the person walked in, his whole body started to tremble. Wasn't this Chairman Yen? In the past, when he met him, he had to bow his head and be submissive. But now Chairman Yen was here wanting to be a professional actor. It must be an act. He must be wanting to experience life. It's just a pretense to test his loyalty. Boss Fan told himself that he had to cooperate fully and play along. He readily agreed to sign the contract, no matter what demands Li Dong made. Specifically, it was just that he wouldn't do any romantic scenes, kissing or otherwise, with anyone except Chen Shi, and then he wouldn't spread rumors to promote the film unless it was with Chen Shi. Boss Fan didn't even know that Chen Shi was a not-so-famous actress in his own company. After that, he immediately gave the Super VIP project to the new actor and organized a public press conference. As soon as Chen Shi heard the news, she tried to contact him, but he didn't answer. If Boss Lin found out about this, she was surely done for. The press conference had already started. Chen Shi tried to call Li Dong down, but she was ruthlessly kicked out. Now, if the news hit the headlines, it was over. She could only think of one way out. She had to find news that was even hotter. She called Ji Qing for help. A short while later, the reporters received a tip that idol Ji Qing had publicly declared his feelings for the little-known actress Chen Shi. The reporters turned around and went to find Chen Shi for an interview. Li Dong heard about it and abandoned the press conference to find her. Just as many people were asking about her relationship with Ji Qing, Li Dong pulled her aside. "What's going on between you two?" She said angrily. "Can't you read the news? Why are you even asking?" "Well, then I wish you two a long and happy life together." She glared at him and snapped. "If it weren't for the trouble you caused, I wouldn't have had to do this." Now, what right did he have to talk to her? It was clear that from the beginning, it was because of her that he was in this mess. The two of them got angry again, each going their separate ways. On Ji Qing's side, his manager was furious. Why would he let someone with no name affect his career? Clearly, the image of a male god needed a large female fan base. But now, no matter what he said, he didn't care. The important thing was that Chen Shi had asked for his help. That night, the two of them walked and talked together. Chen Shi said that things were so urgent that she could only ask him to help her, and she couldn't explain it clearly over the phone. Li Dong was at home waiting for Chen Shi to return. He reread the news and realized that Ji Qing had only publicly declared that she was his first love, not that they were dating. So what was there to be jealous of? It was just the past. The present was what mattered. But strangely, why was she so late and not home yet? He took out his phone to call her, but she didn't pick up. He called chubby assistant to ask what was going on. She said that besides the film set, she never went anywhere else, and just now she was still with Ji Qing. Hearing this, he immediately called Ji Qing and learned that Chen Shi had left earlier. Both of them were worried and frantically went to look for her. Li Dong immediately found her phone charm. She must be around here somewhere. At this moment, she woke up tied tightly to a sofa in a shabby old house. Her mouth gagged, so she couldn't call for help. Her kidnapper said that the person who hired him hated her very much and wanted her to suffer. So where should they start? Just as he pulled out a 10-centimeter knife to threaten her, Li Dong crashed his car straight through the wall. Another hero to the rescue scene. Li Dong bravely stepped forward, despite the fact that the person was holding a weapon. He kicked him, knocking him half dead, so he quickly switched his target to Chen Shi. Seeing this, Li Dong used his bare hand to block the knife for her and gave the guy another kick, sending him running away. The protagonist's halo was really buffing him up. He had intended to call the police, but the beauty didn't want to pursue it further and just wanted to go home to bandage his wounds. Then Li Dong scooped Chen Shi up in his arms and said, "Let's go home." It had only been a short time, and he had already saved her from danger twice. A little later, Ji Qing ran to the scene, but she was no longer there, only evidence that she had been rescued. Chubby assistant ran over to report that Chen Shi had returned home safely. Both of them were happy and wanted to visit her, but Ji Qing was urgently called away for work and couldn't be absent. Chubby assistant had to go alone. He was also sad because when Chen Shi needed help, he couldn't do anything. At this moment, Chen Shi was bandaging Li Dong's wound. She was clearly grateful for him saving her life, but she still had to scold him for foolishly blocking the knife for her. He said he didn't think much, he just didn't want her to get hurt. Saying that, he moved closer, wanting something in return, but chubby assistant chose that exact moment to open the door and ruin the mood. She told Chun-Shi to call Ji Qing, or he would worry. Then she invited the two of them to continue and close the door, but how could they? Even though he was injured, the two of them still went to the film set, as usual. Chun-Shi was also greeted and cared for by everyone after the incident. While Li Dong was called away, Ji Qing also came to see Chun-Shi to check on her. He was very worried and even wanted to personally drive her to and from work from now on, but she refused. And the person who called Li Dong away was none other than Yuling, of course. She took the opportunity to stir the pot, constantly emphasizing the ambiguous relationship between Chun-Shi and Ji Qing. He immediately stated his position, saying he only saw her as a younger sister, and turned to leave. But this girl was shameless and ran up to hug him tightly from behind, not letting go. Just then, Chun-Shi and Ji Qing arrived. She found it unpleasant and also jealous, so she linked arms with Ji Qing and invited him to rehearse the script. Li Dong had just said he saw Yuling as a younger sister, but he also put his arm around her to retaliate against Chun-Shi. Just like that, they hurt each other one more time. The next day at the film set, the two guys faced off again in a scene between the third prince and the prince. This time, the woman being fought over was Yuling, but the more they dialogued, the more it seemed like they were talking about Chun-Shi. Sure enough, the conflict escalated. Li Dong blurted out, scolding Ji Qing, saying he was just a first love. What was the big deal? Then the two of them were about to start fighting. The director was furious and ran out to settle the score with both of them, but he was stopped. Who told them that they were now famous and pampered actors who couldn't be touched. During the break, Ji Qing again proactively approached Chun-Shi to chat with her more intimately. Li Dong was furious but couldn't do anything. Yuling came over and asked him to open a water bottle for her. He did it unconsciously, without thinking. Who knew that Chun-Shi would see that scene and get jealous? She angrily walked over and deliberately bumped into Yuling. And then Li Dong even scolded her, so she got even angrier. After filming was over, Ji Qing came to invite Chun-Shi to watch a movie. At the same time, Yuling rushed over to invite Li Dong to dinner. It was like neither of them wanted to give in, wanted to provoke the other, so they both accepted the invitations. But just as they were leaving, Chun-Shi changed her mind. She used the excuse of being tired and wanted to reschedule for another day. Well, Ji Qing didn't want to, but he had to accept it. Li Dong did the same. He took a few steps and then abandoned Yuling. Then the two of them met at home. At the moment when Li Dong was stuffing instant noodles into his mouth to stave off hunger, Chun-Shi still sarcastically asked why he had to come home and eat noodles when he was supposed to be having dinner with someone. He said he was too hungry, so he was just eating extra. And what about her? Why was she home when she was supposed to be watching a movie? She said her phone ran out of battery, so she came back. They didn't say it, but everyone knew the other person hadn't gone on a date. They could only smile contentedly. The next day, at the launch event for the Super VIP project, Boss Fan invited Boss Lin and Boss Sue. This Boss Sue is Yuling's father, folks. The two of them exchanged sarcastic greetings. Mrs. Lin asked why he spoiled his daughter so much that he let her participate in the murky waters of the entertainment industry. Boss Sue was a bit annoyed but still smiled it off. Who knew that Boss Fan would introduce Li Dong as the company's new artist, making her stunned and then ashamed, wanted to find a hole to crawl into. Boss Sue leaned in and asked her, "Normally, Chairman Yin never appears in public. Who knew he would have to go out and earn a living like this?" Mrs. Lin was so humiliated that she ran over to confront Chun-Shi. Before she could even wait for her to explain, she started insulting her, saying that this family already had one actor. Wasn't that enough? Chun-Shi's face changed completely. She knew that she didn't like her, but this time she had gone too far. It was her own entertainment company that signed a contract with him, and she didn't even know it. An ordinary actress like her, what could she possibly know? She criticized her for not being able to control her husband, letting him do crazy things while he was the chairman of the company. While things were tense, Yuling came over, saying she was looking for Li Dong. Chun-Shi immediately said that he was doing great, having fun, partying, and flirting with girls like her. So what more did she want? Mrs. Lin blurted out that the Yin family was unlucky to have married a daughter-in-law like her. Chun-Shi also said that she was tricked by Li Dong's sweet talk, who will want to enter the Yin family. Yuling was stunned and asked, "You two are married?" Both mother and daughter said in unison, "Yes, we've been married for a long time." Yuling wandered off, dazed. After that, Li Dong returned. Seeing his mother scolding Chen Shi, he rushed in to pull his mother away, saying that he was earning money for her now, so she shouldn't bother Chen Shi anymore. Mrs. Lin asked to allow him to film movies, that his meager earnings were worth nothing. But thinking back, the doctor said that forcing him to remember the past would be a big shock and could have serious consequences. So she gave up, too tired to say anything more. After his mother angrily left, Li Dong ran over to apologize to Chen Shi, but she was too tired to say anything and silently went inside. Yuling wandered home. As soon as she arrived, she saw her sister, Yu Zhang. She could only say that Li Dong was married and fainted. After waking up, even though her sister advised her, she still wouldn't listen, thinking that he must have been forced to marry, but he loved her. Truly, no one is normal when they're in love. On the day of the film's premiere party, everyone was wondering why they couldn't see the male lead, Ji Qing, and the female lead, Yu Ling. Some people said, why would someone as VIP as Ji Qing appear at such a small event? Even this movie, he only accepted it out of consideration, lowering himself. Then, someone wanted to offer Chen Shi a drink, but Li Dong immediately stopped them and drank it for her. Just as he sent the guest away, Chen Shi was called by Ji Qing to meet him on the rooftop. Seeing her arrive, and seeming cold, he took off his jacket and draped it over her. Then he gave her a surprise gift. Just then, Li Dong went looking for Chen Shi. He arrived and saw the two of them laughing and talking together, watching the fireworks together, very romantically. Not only that, Ji Qing also gave Chen Shi a beautiful necklace. Li Dong couldn't bear to watch anymore and didn't want to disturb them, so he quietly left. Ji Qing began to express his feelings and his regret for breaking up with her in the past to pursue his career abroad. Now that he had a certain position but was truly lonely and empty, he still loved her and sincerely wanted her to be with him. Chen Shi smiled slightly and refused. His starlight belonged to many female fans, including her, so he couldn't belong to just her. She refused the gift as well as his feelings, then returned his jacket and left. Chen Shi went looking for Li Dong and found him already drunk. How did he drink himself into this state? He saw her, whined, hugged her, and cried, "You finally came to take me home?" A little later, when they got home, she let him down on the sofa, but he pulled her close. He asked why she was so close to Ji Qing. Did she like him that much? What about being first loves? He had a first love too. Chen Shi's face turned slightly sad and said she knew, then stood up. He said his first love was her, but she didn't believe him. He pulled her into his arms, and the two of them fell onto the sofa. He said he liked her and would absolutely never hurt her like her late husband did. And in Chen Shi's mind, she thought, why was 19-year-old Li Dong so different from the husband she once knew? Then they fell into each other's arms. And Ji Qing, after being rejected, went home to drink to drown his sorrows. Looking at the necklace on the table, he remembered the moment she rejected him. The more he thought about it, the sadder he got. This was a case of you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Just when the guy was down, someone called to invite him to act in a movie. Bad luck in love, good luck in career, that must be his fate. On the side of Chen Shi and Li Dong, they didn't wake up until noon. As soon as she opened her eyes, she was deeply shocked by the foolish thing they did last night. Now, saying she went to the wrong room wouldn't work, because at that time, he was drunk, but she wasn't. He forced her to admit what happened between them, but she denied it and didn't want him to take responsibility. From that moment on, Li Dong kept looking at her with daggers in his eyes and sulking, while she just wanted to avoid him. His head kept thinking about it. How could she be so cold to him? Even during a meeting, he suddenly stood up, talked nonsense, and then rushed off to find Chen Shi to force her to take responsibility for him. Everyone sitting there heard everything and was also extremely excited and curious about Li Dong's performance last night in front of Chen Shi. Boss Fan ordered the manager that, from now on, Chen Shi would be made the company's top female artist. Immediately, the new film starring Li Dong was assigned to Chen Shi as the female lead. Yuling heard this news from the manager. She was bitter, but used to it. Now the only way was to sabotage. With the filming of the promotional clip for the new movie, she urged the manager to let her shoot with Li Dong, the supporting male lead, first. At the set, she kept acting coy and intimate, wanting to invite him to dinner with her, but he flatly refused. She then intentionally injured herself to be taken to the hospital. Just as he finished work and was heading home, he saw Ji Qing meeting Chen Shi, confessing, saying he would wait for her. He interrupted immediately because he didn't like the person he liked being pursued. But as soon as Chen Shi saw the bloodstain on him, she worriedly asked him about it. Ji Qing saw this and implicitly understood that he had probably lost this round. After that, Chun-Shi followed Ji Qing to the hospital. Even though she hated Yuling, she heard that she was injured while taking pictures with Li Dong. It was because of Li Dong, so she had a responsibility to check on her. Who knew that as soon as she arrived, she would see Yu Zheng looking tired, walking out. She said it was probably because she rushed over, hearing that her younger sister was injured. She slowed down a step. Seeing Li Dong helping and supporting her, jealousy surged inside her. Without saying a word, she left first. When Li Dong got home, he scolded her for making him go looking for her. She angrily threw the diary at him to read. Weren't these his words for his secret lover? If I could go back to being 19 again, I would definitely never let her go. He threw the diary down, denying that he did it. He took her hands, looked straight at her, and said his secret lover could only be her. This statement made her heart race again. The next day, going to receive the company's new super project. As soon as she received the script, she thought she would be cast as the third supporting female role as originally planned. But when she heard the staff say no, she was a little disappointed and asked to play the fourth supporting female role. But it was another shake of the head. She was feeling down, not understanding what role she would play, when they suddenly announced that she had been cast as the female lead, acting alongside Li Dong. She and chubby assistant were overjoyed beyond words. After being ignored for 7 years, having a new movie role snatched away, now she had received a super VIP project. Next, going to try on clothes. The outfit she liked the most was a display item that wasn't allowed to be borrowed. Li Dong finished trying on his clothes and saw Chun-Shi's gaze directed at that dress. He immediately used his current position and brought it back as a gift for her. Seeing her happy, he couldn't hide his own joy and jumped for joy. At the party, she took his arm, just like a match made in heaven. Chun-Shi was always beautiful, but due to being less famous, she wasn't noticed. Now, everyone's eyes were on her and Li Dong. Yuling was now completely healthy and came to taunt Chun-Shi, bragging about how Li Dong took care of her every need while she was in the hospital. Chun-Shi was tired of listening and was about to leave when Yuling pushed her. But Li Dong was there, rushing over with lightning speed to catch her by the waist. As for Yuling, he didn't care, and she fell to the floor. Everyone clearly saw her ugly behavior, so she had no choice but to run away quickly. Back in the dressing room, Yuling was still fuming. But suddenly, she overheard a conversation between two people about the kidnapping of Chun-Shi last time. The young man was listening to his crush, wanting to harm the person she hated, but now she wanted to shirk all responsibility. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yuling went to coax him, claiming to be a close friend to the person he liked, promising to help him if he listened to her. Who knows what trouble Chun-Shi would encounter this time? Meanwhile, Ji Qing had just returned from meeting with the director. His manager scolded him for not focusing on work. Was it because he was too concerned about Chun-Shi that he was distracted? The director needed someone like him to take the role to win awards for the film. Ji Qing was angry. He had been in the industry for 10 years, working nonstop. When he finally had a certain position, he felt empty inside, not being able to do what he liked, not having the person he loved. He just wanted a break because he was too tired. The manager heard this and could only shake his head in dismay. As for Chun-Shi and Li Dong, they returned from the party quite late, so she felt a little cold, didn't want to eat or drink anything, and just wanted to go to her room to rest. The next morning, he went up to wake her up for breakfast so they could go to the film set, but he kept calling and she didn't answer. Because he was worried, he opened the door himself. He saw her lying unconscious on the bed, and she had a fever. She was also talking in her sleep, calling his name intimately, and saying she would cook for him. Li Dong didn't understand. She had never cooked for him, so why was she calling him so intimately, so different from usual? But he didn't think anymore. He gave her medicine to reduce the fever and put her to bed. When she woke up, Li Dong brought porridge and fed her spoonful by spoonful. When she felt better, chubby assistant urgently called to urge the two of them to go to work. But when they got there for the meeting, the only role missing was the supporting male lead. But it was understandable. The male lead was new and not yet famous. The female lead had been around for years, but had no reputation. So who would want to take this role? But that person had appeared. It was none other than superstar Ji Qing. This made everyone's eyes widen in disbelief. Everyone started whispering and gossiping, wondering if the company had blackmailed him. So he had to lower himself to accept a supporting role. Even Chun-Shi leaned in and asked, but he said it was because he found the character suitable. Although it was a supporting role, the film project was S-class, so why couldn't he accept it? After a not-so-smooth workday, back at home, Li Dong even found an old photo of him and Chun-Shi together in storage. He asked her when he became her assistant and why there was such an intimate photo. She didn't know how to answer, turned around, kissed him on the cheek, grabbed the photo, and ran up to her room. The next morning, as soon as she opened the door, Li Dong was waiting outside. He forced her to explain clearly, but she denied everything. There was no photo, and she would never have kissed him. End of story. Ignoring this, today was the day of the cast announcement for the super project. Everyone waited and waited, but the female lead hadn't arrived yet. They heard she was a little-known actress. But as the door opened, Chun-Shi, dressed elegantly, with a seductive slit in her dress and a sophisticated updo, walked in, bathed in the admiring gazes of everyone. Li Dong quickly nudged Ji Qing aside to make room for Chun-Shi to come next to him. She introduced herself as the female lead for the movie The Misguided Lover, this time's super S-class project. The two of them kept looking at each other and smiling, not knowing that Ji Qing was wanting to cry inside. His taking on the supporting role this time made his manager extremely upset. She wanted to confront him, asking why he would sacrifice his career for a woman. But seeing how stubborn he was, talking was useless. She was about to leave when the supporting actress who was crazy about guys arrived. She was Qian. Just hearing her name, Ji Qing wanted to avoid her like the plague, and she even opened her mouth to criticize Chun-Shi in front of him. Ji Qing angrily scolded her. It's none of your business. A little later, in the practice room, Chun-Shi was practicing dancing but slipped and fell. Luckily, Li Dong rushed over to cushion her fall. She was fine, but his hand hurt a lot. Ji Qing was worried about the person he cared for, but she was just worried about Li Dong. He remembered the time he fell while practicing dancing, and Chun-Shi had also cared for him so much. The assistant director came to see what was going on. Everyone found out that it was because of Qian. Chun-Shi directly went to ask her about it, and was scolded for only knowing how to seduce Ji Qing, making him accept a supporting role to pursue her. She was so angry that she shoved her a little. Unfortunately, that scene was secretly filmed, and it reached the hands of the person who kidnapped her last time. He saw that his Qian was being interacted with, and he went crazy again, wanting to teach Chun-Shi a lesson. On the way, Chun-Shi was strolling. She was scared because she felt like someone was following her, but luckily, it was Ji Qing. Thanks to that, the bad guy didn't have a chance to attack her. The first day of filming arrived. Chun-Shi, Li Dong, and Ji Qing all happily took pictures together. Then it was time to take some promotional photos. Unfortunately, Chun-Shi was injured while trying on clothes. Li Dong was extremely worried about her and even discovered a needle on the outfit. Just then, a staff member ran over, bringing needles for Qian, saying these were the needles she was looking for. Qian argued that she didn't do it. She just wanted to mend her clothes. But strangely, she couldn't find a tear she had seen earlier. The costume staff dragged Qian away to report her, but this was really unfair. It was Yu Ling who set Qian up. Now, her face was beaming with joy. After this incident, everyone rumored that Qian would be kicked out of the film crew. Chun-Shi accidentally overheard this. Everyone also said she was formidable because she had someone backing her up. That was Li Dong's VIP contract with this company. He just designated her as the female lead, and she became the female lead. Chun-Shi's face darkened when she heard this. Back at home, she confronted Li Dong, asking why he chose her as the female lead. By doing so, he didn't respect this profession. He didn't value her efforts. He said that Ji Qing accepted a supporting role for her, and she was so happy. But when he helped her become the female lead, she scolded him. He just wanted to act with her. Was that wrong? Chun-Shi angrily left the house, not letting him follow. Meanwhile, the guy who simped for Qian saw that she was kicked out of the film crew because of Chun-Shi, so he called Yu Ling to ask for Chun-Shi's address. Who knew that Yu Zheng would answer the phone? While she was listening, Yu Ling ran over, snatched the phone, and immediately gave him the address. Seeing that he said he would kill her, she got scared for Li Dong and hurried over there to see what was going on. Yu Zheng saw her younger sister going out at night, so she worried and ran after her. Yu Ling arrived at Chun-Shi's house and rang the doorbell frantically. Li Dong opened the door and she asked, "Where's Sister Chun-Shi? I want to see her." He said she'd just gone out, so she felt relieved and went inside to sit and talk with Li Dong. Meanwhile, Chun-Shi was strolling down a deserted street. That guy had a knife ready and was following her. Li Dong was at home pouring water for his guest when he accidentally spilled it. He felt like it was a bad omen, so he was about to go out to find Chun-Shi, but that girl was clinging to him. No matter how much she clung, he was only concerned about Chun-Shi. Meanwhile, Yu Zheng went looking for Yu Ling and met Chen Shi. So, she quickly told her to be very careful because someone wanted to harm her. Just as she finished speaking, that guy rushed over with a knife. Yu Zheng immediately pushed Chen Shi out of the way and took the stab. The guy was restrained by several people, but he kept shouting that he wanted to kill Chen Shi for hurting his Qian. The ambulance arrived very quickly to help. Yu Ling, in a car from a distance, saw the scene and smiled to herself, thinking that if Chen Shi had an accident, Li Dong would be hers. But as soon as she drove home, Boss Su frantically reported that her older sister had an accident, and the whole family rushed to the hospital. Li Dong heard Chen Shi's phone call and rushed to the hospital. He thought something had happened to her, so he was very anxious. She hugged him tightly and recounted the events. Then the emergency room doors opened. Sadly, Yu Zheng hadn't survived. She and he went to give their statements, while Yu Ling's father and Yu Ling were there beside Yu Zheng for the last time. Back home, Yu Ling cleaned up her sister's memorial photo. Her father scolded the housekeeper for not watching Yu Zheng carefully. She already had a heart condition and ran outside at night. The housekeeper had to confess that the older sister was afraid the younger sister would get into trouble, so she ran after her. Yu Ling also heard this and was stunned. So it was because of her that her sister died. She started blaming herself for this tragedy. Boss Su needed Yu Ling to explain clearly what was the reason. She blamed it all on Chen Shi. Just because she wanted her dead, because she wanted to be with Li Dong, her sister had met with this misfortune. Her father flew into a rage. It was all because of that guy. He scolded her, asking if she was lovesick or something. Her sister shouldn't have died in vain like that. She blamed her father back, asking if he wished the dead person was her and not her sister, if in his heart she wasn't even worth an illegitimate child. Boss Su was so furious that he slapped her, causing her to hit her head on the corner of the table and faint. He rushed over to support Yu Ling, shaking her and calling for her to wake up, but to no avail. The next morning, Yu Ling opened her eyes and saw herself in the hospital, her father standing beside her bed. She didn't remember why she was here. Her head throbbed, and she kept asking where her sister was, making Boss Su extremely worried. Then he went to ask the doctor about his daughter's condition. He learned that due to the great psychological shock, she had temporarily forgotten some things. Gradually, her condition would improve with good care. Then he took Yu Ling home. As soon as she arrived, she asked where her sister was again. He was heartbroken, thinking he had already lost one daughter. He didn't want to lose this one too. He gave her a sweet, ripe strawberry, her favorite thing to eat. Suddenly, memories of her childhood came flooding back to Yu Ling. Back then, he only gave her older sister strawberries, letting her sit and watch. But her older sister always gave them all to her because she knew she liked them. Her head started to hurt terribly again. She suddenly remembered that her sister had died saving Chen Shi. Yu Ling cried out in pain. Her father could only hug her and comfort her. As for Chen Shi, she couldn't eat or sleep well since that day. She had nightmares again, dreaming of Yu Zheng. Her screams made Li Dong rush in to see what was wrong. She was so scared that she hugged him tightly. Even though he encouraged and calmed her down, she still wanted him to stay by her side at this moment. The next day, the assistant showed a video clip that was spreading online about the incident with Chen Shi. They were all afraid that the incident would affect the filming schedule due to Chen Shi's unstable mental state. Reporters always wanted to find her for news. She suggested to Boss Fan that they replace the female lead. He immediately met with Li Dong to negotiate, but he had already made up his mind. Only Chen Shi could play opposite him. If not, then they should replace the male lead too. Saying that, he angrily left. Boss Fan was like, "I'm so tired of this." The netizens were being led by the nose by Boss Su. He had news published that the incident was due to a love triangle dispute between Chen Shi and Qian. Yu Ling read the news and blamed them for murdering her sister, determined to avenge her. He heard the housekeeper shouts and rushed downstairs to comfort Yu Ling. He promised he would definitely avenge Yu Zheng for her. On Ji Qing's side, he also didn't sit still. He demanded his social media account back, but he couldn't get it, so he directly went to give an interview to defend Chen Shi. This made his manager extremely angry, asking where the person who used to beg her with the ambition of becoming the #1 star in the entertainment industry had gone. Why would he want to sacrifice everything for an unworthy woman? He was too tired to explain. Was he supposed to just sit still? And Boss Fan went to see Mrs. Lin to inform her about the super project, The Misguided Lover. They wanted to change the female lead, but Chairman Yin didn't agree. She immediately went to find Chen Shi. She thought she was looking for her son, so she told her he wasn't there and asked her to leave. But Mrs. Lin said she came to see her because the production company wanted to change the female lead. Seeing her weak, cowardly, and hiding, she scolded her relentlessly. Was this the same person with a sharp tongue who argued with her to defend her own views before? If she didn't care, what kind of storm could make her fall? She concluded by saying that she liked her from back then more than the weakling she was now. It turned out that when Boss Fan went to see her to let her make the decision, because the company had invested so much in this project, she told him to listen to Li Dong and not change the female lead. It was also really surprising. In another development, Yu Ling called Qian to meet her at an abandoned house and then murdered her. The next day, the news reported that the actress Qian was missing. Yu Ling heard people talking and just smiled contentedly to herself. This girl was really sick, folks. On the film crew, Chun-Shi had returned to filming according to schedule. Seeing this, Mrs. Lin also acknowledged her efforts and recognized her more. It was time to film. The male and female leads passed each other. Chun-Shi accidentally dropped her handkerchief, and Li Dong picked it up. Just as he bent down to pick up the handkerchief and return it to the young lady, he was hit on the head by a falling flower pot and had to be hospitalized. It was another act by someone Yu Ling hired. Li Dong soon woke up, but he had regained his memory. He remembered everything that had happened recently while he was amnesiac. However, he still didn't say anything to Chun-Shi and continued to follow her to the film crew. But his domineering chairman personality returned, making him reluctantly listen to his subordinates' directions. He was extremely uncomfortable, and then Chun-Shi ordered him to buy coffee. He still went, but his face was always scowling. She kept reminding him not to have an attitude, because even if he was a big star, he was still her assistant. Li Dong angrily walked away. Then, seeing Ji Qing standing and talking to Chen Hai, he stormed over, put his arm around her, and threatened Ji Qing not to touch his woman, and then took her away. Chen-Shi thought it was strange and asked if he had remembered anything, but he still denied it and hid the fact that he had regained his memory. In the evening, they still had to film to keep up with the schedule. Everyone was engrossed in reading the script when chubby assistant ran in, panicked, saying that she had searched everywhere but couldn't find Chun-Shi, and she wasn't answering her phone. Everyone frantically searched everywhere but couldn't find her. And when she woke up, she was terrified because next to her was Qian's corpse. Even more surprisingly, Yu Ling was standing there, looking at Chun-Shi smugly. She started blaming Chun-Shi for driving her crazy like this, ever since she heard that Chun-Shi and Li Dong were married, and then when she saw her sister's cold body because she saved her life. She choked Chun-Shi, not letting her explain a word, even though she wanted to apologize for Yu Zheng's death. Suddenly, Yu Ling's phone rang. She looked at it and then suddenly changed her tone. "I'm a good daughter to my father. I can't make him sad." Then she left, ignoring Chun-Shi's cries for help. Meanwhile, Ji Qing found Chun-Shi's dropped phone. It had been smashed, so she must have been in trouble. Everyone gathered around, suspecting it was related to Qian's disappearance. Ji Qing called the police, and Li Dong ran to check the surveillance cameras in this area. Li Dong watched the surveillance footage and could only recognize the Su family's car appearing at the same time Chun-Shi disappeared. He stormed over to Boss Su's house to demand the person, but he just mocked the Yin family, asking what right they had to question the Su family. Moreover, he was in his office all day. He didn't appear outside, so he had nothing to do with it. Li Dong said the case of Yu Zheng had been concluded. Chun-Shi was innocent, and it was still unclear why Qian disappeared, so he hoped he wouldn't do anything wrong and regret it later. When he left, he asked the housekeeper what his daughter did today. She said she slept all day. He went into Yu Ling's room and saw her sleeping. He pulled the blanket up to cover her, but he saw mud stains on her shoes. Then he kept thinking, could this be related to his daughter? On Li Dong's side, he was still working hard to find her. The assistant director reported that the time Chun-Shi had been missing was still short, so it wasn't enough to file a report. Li Dong still insisted that the Su family was involved in this. So early the next morning, he and Ji Qing followed the Su family. The manager kept calling Ji Qing, but he didn't answer. Li Dong was impatient and asked. He said that besides work, there was nothing else important. Then Boss Su's car passed by. The two of them followed and saw him visiting his daughter's grave. He looked at the bouquet of lilies and then thought about the place Yu Ling liked to go to the most, the place where she could watch the sunset over the city. He left immediately. The two young men also followed. At that time, Chun-Shi was tied up high. Yu Ling slowly approached, saying that she wanted to send her to the afterlife with her sister so she could atone for her sins. At that moment, Boss Su arrived in time to stop Yuling. The two young men also rushed over, promising that she could have anything as long as she released Qinshi. She wanted her sister back. How could that be possible? Seeing her becoming more and more agitated, Boss Su had to reveal the truth. Qinshi had nothing to do with Yu Zhang's death. It was Yuling who instigated and provoked the fanatical fan of the actress Qian, leading him to seek revenge on Qinshi. Accidentally, Yu Zhang took the blow instead and died. Yuling didn't listen, didn't accept this truth, but she started to become distracted, speaking crazily. The three men took the opportunity to approach. The father tried to coax his daughter, but failed. She still struggled and pushed Qinshi down. Li Dong rushed over and held her hand tightly, not letting go, even though he was in a lot of pain. Li Dong said that when they got married, they swore to hold hands and never let go. If possible, it would only be if they died together. Ji Qing tried hard to pull Li Dong back, not letting these two die together. She kept urging Li Dong to let go. Luckily, the police arrived in time to rescue them, and also to arrest Yuling. After all that, they were back together, as if they had never started, as if they had just met. Li Dong asked to love Qinshi again, to love his wife again. She denied being his wife because he had burned the marriage certificate. If it's burned, we could just register again, Li Dong said. She said she would think about it if he confessed honestly. Was there anything else he was hiding from her? Li Dong raised his hand and swore to the heavens. It was true that he was drunk and led to a hotel by Yuling, but he had sobered up in time and taken control of himself, rejecting her advances and leaving. She said it wasn't about that. Li Dong guessed it was about the diary. It was just that she had misunderstood him. She hadn't read all the way to the name of his secret lover, which was his wife, Qinshi. She agreed to forgive everything. The two of them would get back together on one condition, that he marry her again. Li Dong agreed immediately. What was there to hesitate about? They hugged each other happily, as if there had never been a separation. On the day she wore the beautiful wedding dress. Ji Qing brought the necklace from before to give her as a wedding gift. This time, he admitted defeat to Li Dong wholeheartedly, only regretting that the day she was most beautiful, she didn't belong to him. Well, this time he just wanted to wish her well as a friend. Then the couple had their wedding ceremony. 1 year later, Mrs. Lin was happily choosing baby clothes, so you know what that means. Soon, Li Dong was holding his and his wife's little angel in his arms. Seeing them happy, do you feel happy too? Remember to leave a comment below to let us know. That's the end of the movie. See you in the next video from our channel. Thanks for watching, bye-bye.